And good morning, Kern County. It is 7 a.m. on this Thursday morning. I'm Alex Fisher alongside Maddie Jansen and Kevin Charette. Okay, so it is now 7 a.m. on the West Coast. It is 4 p.m. in Italy, in the Vatican. In Italy. And that means that the conclave, once again meeting to vote 2 more times today.
Possibly.
And possibly. Up to 2 more times.
Unless they get a pope. With this next vote.
So
this will be their third vote today.
Their third and fourth vote later on. If they do not, after the fourth vote today, if they do not get a decision by the end of the day, then we have to wait until tomorrow.
Yeah.
But this is kind of like everyone's on edge, right? Like, I mean, we're all waiting to see who will become the next pope, the leader of the Catholic Church and its 1.4 billion members. So here's a live look at Vatican City right now, and you can see people are starting to form. We're actually seeing the crowd start to kind of pick up a little bit. They know what's going on. They know that the conclave is meeting. Now, just because they're meeting right now doesn't mean that smoke is going to be coming from the chimney anytime soon. I mean, it could be several hours from now until we see the results of the vote. And usually what we see, there's no timeline on, it's not like by this time smoke is going to be coming from the chimney. But historically speaking, what typically happens is you see the conclave, they meet, that time when they meet, that's pretty set in stone. They just got done with their lunch break and their lunch recess. They're meeting right now. They will pray and vote, and that usually takes between an hour and 2 hours. Now, then they vote, right? And then the ballots are cast. They are put into the ballot box. The votes are counted. By the way, the votes, the conclave writes the names down, and the conclave actually tries to disguise their handwriting so that it's
interesting.
Yeah, so it's totally done in secrecy. Then the votes are counted, and then, of course, they are burned. And that is what we see, the burning of the votes. That is what
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
that's
so
super interesting.
The votes are put into the burner, and then there's another, like a side burner that emits the smoke. Emits the black or white smoke. But yeah, so when we see the smoke rising...
That's not the ballots burning.
That is the ballots burning, yeah.
Well, they burn that off to the side, and then they emit the smoke a different way.
Yeah, but it is all in the smoke.
It's in the same burner?
It's in the same burner. It's a contraption. There's essentially 2 burners that go into
right.
Go into
they burn.
one.
Okay.
So the chemical or whatever they add to in the second burner is what makes the smoke either white or black. So that is kind of what we're watching this morning. So again, no time frame here. We're expecting this to be several hours. I mean, let's be real. I think the earliest we'll see something is, I would say more on the conservative side, is probably like 9 a.m., right? Like between 8 and 9 a.m. That's more of the conservative. That means that they meet for an hour, they vote within the next hour, and then they immediately go and burn those ballots. That would be remarkable. Highly doubt that, but we'll keep a close eye on that.
Yeah.
What's kind of neat about this, though, guys, is this in a world where we get information on through social media, and we're always given a heads up. I mean, even with official statements, from the White House or other bodies of government, usually there's a source or someone who kind of tips off the media, or something is put on social media. That is not the case here. They have taken an oath to not speak to anyone about the votes, and there's even cell service that's being blocked in the Sistine Chapel, so that this tradition can kind of continue, meaning that the results do not leave the Sistine Chapel. Then once the results have been tabulated and everything, the bell in St. Peter's Basilica, which, by the way, if you're taking a look out, you can see the basilica right there. It's that the bell is at the upper left part of the basilica. That will ring, notifying Vatican City and Rome that results are coming in. So they will gather, and you will literally see tens of thousands of people flood St. Peter's Square to await for the results, and they'll see if there's
because the bell rings every single time they have a vote.
Yes. Well, it rings every time there's a decision being made.
Right, whether it's black smoke or white smoke. They give a very brief.
It's calling. It's essentially like a call to
the square.
To see, and that is the only way we find out if there is going to be a pope or if there's going to be another round of voting. So that's you already see those people right now kind of getting a good seat. Also, if you're looking at this live picture and you're going, "Where's the chimney?" Well, you kind of have to look for it. So if you're looking at this, if you're looking at the center of your screen, you're going to see, of course, the square right there. You see the basilica off into the, that's the big building with the dome, and then to the right you see what's offices and residence.
Look through the crack right there.
Yeah, look through the crack in between the building that you see to the right and the basilica that you see to the left. There's a roof up there that is, it's like a regular roof. That up there is where the small chimney is.
So you see that single cloud right there? Right below that cloud right there. That big cloud that's all by itself.
In the middle of your screen?
In the middle of your screen. Right below that is where the chimney is.
Yep. And so the chimney is installed during this time. It's taken down when there is not an election. So we will have to kind of wait and see, but you can definitely see the crowd. We've been taking a live look at this picture all morning long on 17 News at sunrise, and people have been, going in and out. But now that the conclave is meeting, they're actively meeting. They're actively praying and getting ready to vote. People are kind of getting a good spot, and when you've got tens of thousands of people who are getting ready to, see the results.
They're gonna have to wait for a while. They're kind of there early.
Yeah, but a lot of these people.
But a lot of these people are just visiting.
This is their life.
Rome.
They want to be in the perfect spot. So if that white smoke does, because the Pope will make an appearance shortly after that white smoke is admitted, so they want to be ready to go.
And whether or not you are Catholic, this is still a big deal. I mean, the Pope is not only seen as the leader of the Catholic Church, and its 1.4 billion members. The Pope is seen as also a leader in world politics, and has influence on culture and other religions as well. And you see the papacy have an impact on current affairs. You have, especially Pope Francis, you really saw this during the war in Ukraine and the conflict in the Middle East between Israel and Hamas. And so this is a big deal for all and around the world. And so a big moment. The last time we were sitting here watching this was 2013. So it's been some time. So, and by the way, just because we've been talking about this was the vote early this morning. So the results, if you will, black smoke coming from the chimney. I'm going to ask our producer who's in the back. Hey, Kaylee, this happened around 3 a.m. our time. Yeah, 3 a.m. our time. So this is while we were all kind of sleeping, this is what was going on in Rome. So 3 a.m. our time, 9 a.m. in Italy. So that, of course, was the results of the first 2 rounds of voting that took place in the early morning hours.
All right, so we'll wait and see. And again, we'll be bringing that to you when it happens in probably an hour or so.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna take some time. We just don't know.
Right.
We just don't know. Now, if you look back to 2013, we just saw 2 days of voting. The first day, and then Pope Francis was named the next Pope of the Catholic Church on the final round of the first full day of voting, or the second day, however you want to look at it, on the 5th round. So, yeah, and usually that's, modern history shows that we usually get a Pope by the end of today. If we don't get a Pope by the end of today, it would be rare for a Pope to not be named after the first 2 rounds of
The only difference this time around is there are more congregated inside than there have been in the previous votes.
Yes.
So whenever you have more thoughts and votes, sometimes it does take a little bit longer.
And remember, this is not a simple majority here. You got to get a 2/3 majority. So 2/3 of the conclave has to be in be in agreement here, and yeah, so it could take some time. Now the longest, the longest in the Catholic Church's history came in, I believe, 1271, when the conclave was meeting for, get this, over 1,000 days, nearly 3 years of trying to figure out who was going to be the next pope. I don't think we're going to get to that point. I mean, we're talking.
I don't think they'll let them anymore. They only allow like 30-something votes.
Oh, really?
Anymore?
Oh,
I saw that somewhere. I'll have to look that. But they also say that, so not just when Pope Francis was elected, but the previous election in 2005 happened on this day, the day of the conclave. And so to let it go past that, like, is seen as telling the world there is a division amidst the Catholic Church. And so there's a lot of pressure to show a unified front by coming to a decision pretty quickly, which would be today in a historical sense. So in the last, this is the third one, since then. And so they hope it happens again today.
There's a lot of front runners in this too, that have been looked at. And I was watching earlier today, and there's even betting going on who's going to be.
Oh, there's betting.
There's betting on everything. Everything.
There was something earlier that I watched that was showing the top 3 front runners. So it was kind of interesting.
All right. So we are waiting to find out, see what happens.
So what's also interesting too is, when you talk about the conclave the cardinals wanting to appear in unison and to show this unified front. There's still many factions within the conclave, and so with the 133 members and the requirement of a 2/3 vote. A lot of things happening behind the scenes and so forth. And the big question is the next pope. Pope Francis was kind of seen as this revolutionary, taking the Catholic Church in a different direction, in a non-traditional way, right? Kind of a non-traditional path forward. And so a lot of people right now are speculating, okay, there's going to be 2 things that are going to happen, right? One, you're going to elect a new pope who is going to kind of continue that non-traditional form of leading the Catholic Church.
Kind of modernizing,
and you definitely saw that with Pope Francis, who, took an oath to, kind of living in poverty, understanding, poverty and so forth.
He was the first Jesuit
Catholic, yeah. And then you also have people wondering, are you going to see a pope kind of lead the church and take it back into a more traditional way and lead in a more traditional sense? And so, that's kind of the big question I think a lot of Catholics have around the world, is trying to figure out, where is the Catholic Church going to be heading with this new pope. So.
All right, we'll wait and see. Could find out in the next few hours. Pretty interesting. All right, let's bring it back here at home. Let's talk about the Open Door Network hygiene drive that happened yesterday outside of our studios here. This is something we do every year when we team up with the Open Door Network of Kern County. It's helping the men, women, and children who come to stay there, often with nothing really to their names. And Lauren Skidmore, the CEO, said yesterday that as temperatures get hotter, families that maybe are able to survive by living in their cars or somewhere that doesn't have any air conditioning or anything like that are no longer able to stay in those places because of the heat that we're going to start seeing. I mean, even this weekend, maybe triple-digit temperatures. So they will see a surge in folks needing assistance and taking refuge in their shelter. They're always full, by the way. More than 100 children living there almost on an ongoing basis, essentially revolving in and out between those different families. But we need to collect these items. These are items that they go through a lot of: shampoos, conditioners, deodorants, soaps and body sprays and toilet paper and makeup and all of those toiletries and items that we really take for granted. They're even more needed during these summer months. So we held this hygiene drive yesterday outside of our studios, and here's what Lauren Skidmore had to say.
We have hundreds of women and children that come through our facility every single month, and a lot of people come with just the clothing on their backs and whatever's in their car, and items like body wash and toothpaste are always things that are forgotten. These are things that we need to give to our clients when they come through our doors, and so we'd like to have new items for them.
All right, so donations. The donation drive wrapped up yesterday, but you can always drop off donations to the shelter that is located on East Truxton Avenue. Lauren said yesterday, if you have, like I often do, bottles of hotel toiletries gathered up underneath your sink in your bathroom, this is a great way to donate them. Of course, the larger items are very useful because they can last a whole family for a while, but if you have like a lot of those little things that I just hate to throw away because I hate to waste and throw away the plastic, but you can donate them. They will take them there.
Yeah, I used to collect those all the time from the hotel, and you can't really anymore. A lot of hotels have transitioned from that to the bottles that are fixed in the showers.
That they just refill.
You don't find
which I
the
like,
little
not throwing
individuals
away the
anymore.
plastic all the time,
I think they were probably losing a lot of money on those.
Well, it's just not sustainable. I mean,
Right.
it's terrible for the environment.
Right,
I mean,
100%.
They're, a lot of them are used only once, when those little mini bottles can last you several, at least a week worth of, shampoo, conditioner, body wash, all that stuff. But, once they're used, usually once, and then they're thrown away. So.
Yeah, so they could use those still. If you
definitely.
can, drop those off. It is going to be very hot this weekend. Another drive that we are part of right now, also benefiting the Open Door Network, is the Shoes for a Homeless drive.
Yeah.
And again, as it gets hot, these things get more important. Imagine walking outside barefoot, and we see people on a daily basis within blocks from where we work and live without shoes, walking the streets of Bakersfield and Kern County because they don't have any. So the Guarantee Shoe Center is teaming up again with the Open Door Network and KGET for this 33rd annual Shoes for a Homeless shoe drive, and you have until Monday to donate those new or gently used shoes. You can drop them off at Guarantee Shoe Center, which is just down the street from our studios on Chester and 21st. We're here at 22nd and L. You can bring them here. You can take them to Capital Dental Group on Camino Media or to Remax on Coffee Road. So come by and drop those off. Maybe go through your closet like Alex was saying. Are there shoes that you don't use or wear that have plenty of wear left in them? This is a great way to pay it forward.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, I actually did a new live shot from Roscoe's Place, Guarantee Shoe Center downtown. And I was getting ready for a live shot, and all of a sudden I saw this homeless gentleman with no shoes and another gentleman by his side. They walk in, and I'm very curious, and I'm not approaching, I'm walking, and they go to the shoe racks and they start looking at shoes. And my curiosity got to me, and I walked over. I said, "Hey, what do you guys do? You guys looking for shoes?" And the gentleman said, "Yeah, I was driving down Chester, and I saw this gentleman walking. It was like 90 degrees that day with no shoes." He goes, "I did a U-E, picked him up, and brought him here to Guarantee Shoe Center." And he was buying him a brand new pair of shoes.
Wow.
But the homeless man didn't realize what was going on. He just brought him into Guarantee Shoe Center. And when we were talking, the homeless gentleman was like, "Oh, no, you don't need to get me shoes. No. And the guy said, yes. And then Roscoe kind of heard what was going on. He comes over, "What's going on?" I said, "Roscoe, this gentleman just did a U-turn. He saw this homeless guy. He knew we were doing our shoe drive, and he's here to buy him a pair of brand new shoes." The homeless guy broke down in tears, and we got to hear a little bit of his story. And he admitted that he had made some mistakes in life that brought him to this point of homelessness. And he was just never able to recover from those decisions. He had tried to get a job in the past, but being homeless and not having shoes or clothes, how do you go in for a job interview?
Right.
How do you get that job to get back on your feet? And so Roscoe, in his kind-hearted, paid for those shoes to help with that man who just did that act of kindness by turning around and being a part of that.
I love that. That is incredible. Incredible example for all of us. Seeing the person and not the condition.
Exactly. we don't know what's going on in a person's life. You know, so many times I think we put homeless people in one box. Oh, that's their choice. Not the case. You know, talking to so many homeless advocates and stuff like that doesn't mean just because somebody's on the street that they choose to be on the streets. Trust me, I've talked to some homeless people. They do. Some do choose. That's the life they want to live. But others just don't know how to get back on their feet.
I think it illustrates the complexity of the issue, right? I mean, it's like you said. I think it's so easy for us to put it into one box.
Yeah.
But it's so complex, and it kind of goes back to like we need to remember these are humans. These are souls,
Human
right? Like.
beings.
For an example,
Yeah.
I was at Home Depot a couple weeks ago, and you know, this guy was going around, around asking if he could wash their windshields, and he had his son with him. And at the time, I didn't have any money on me. I went into Home Depot and I came out and I got $5 change back, and I went up to him and I said, "Here, this is for you." I said, "First off, I'm glad that you're out here, doing something. You're not just asking me, for money." Because I don't know where that money's going. We all work hard for our dollar, and I'm fine with giving a donation to somebody who's on their hard times, but I want to know where that money's going. I don't want it to go I don't want it to go to the wrong place. And so I didn't even need my windows washed. I just heard his story. He was on SSI, just really struggling with him and his son. And I said, I think it's great. You're out here trying to earn a dollar. And I thought it was just really eye-opening for me to see him and his son trying to do something to get back on their feet.
So many people do feel the way you feel, Kev, and do fear that. And I think that there's a valid point there that, like, but what if I'm feeding an addiction? What if I'm helping them purchase something that could kill them?
Yeah.
I think that, I completely understand that. I think that a lot of people have that feeling. And we've had city leaders, promote, don't give there, give to our shelters, give to flood ministries, which goes to the riverbed, goes to these encampments.
Well, I mean, collectively, those donations
Right.
could really make a huge impact. I mean, you can still be kind, you can still.
Oh, absolutely.
you
And
can
I'm
still-
not saying don't give if
Right.
that's what's been put on your heart to do, because I still do. I mean, it just depends on every case by case basis.
Right.
If I have food in my car, if
Yes.
I have money in my car, if my kids see it and they want to give money, I'm not going to tell my children, no, you don't want to do that.
Right.
So, I
it's
mean,
just
it
your
just,
caution. You're
I
cautious
think a lot
about
of
it.
people have that, but yeah, there are so many organizations working so hard here
Right.
in Kern County that we can support.
And trust me, if I'm at a drive-through, if I'm going through get to my Taco Bell, or Maddie's like, ugh, Taco Bell. I love my Taco Bell.
Judging your food.
If I go through a Taco Bell or get food, and there's somebody outside or whatever, I have no problem whatsoever. I will grab a meal and I will back it up with a drink, and I will drive back around and say, hey, just wanted to give you some lunch today. I have no problem with that whatsoever. But again, it's just giving the money. I don't know where that money's going. And at one time, I had given somebody some money, and next thing I know, I turn around and they went into the convenience store as I was walking in after giving the money and bought beer. For me, that's just hard for me to support that. If you want food, you need water, I am here, for you. It's a sad situation all around.
Yeah, it really
and I'm
is.
glad we have the
It's
resources in our community to help people with their
And
addictions.
they're getting better, too.
Yes, help people with their addictions, giving people a place to stay and recover, and hopefully get in a home of their own. That's the thing about the Open Door Network. Yes, it's a homeless shelter, but they have so many great programs at the Open Door Network to get people back on their feet, to get people into housing. And that's why yesterday's drive was so important, because those hygiene products and stuff like that can carry on with them when they do get their place to live, or even staying at the Open Door Network. So it's just so important to support those programs in our community.
I was just looking to see, I can't remember, when do we expect the release of the point-in-time
It's usually in
homelessness
June.
count? So yeah, it's coming up
Usually
in just a few weeks, the point-in-time homelessness count that happens every year at the beginning of the year.
I'm hoping it's improving, because I drive around the Garza Circle quite a bit, go out to the baseball park, and I haven't noticed. I mean, they have cordoned off that area quite a bit for the homeless camps, but I'm hoping that when that comes out, hopefully we're seeing improvements from where we were a year ago.
Homelessness was up 37% in 2024.
Yeah.
So
I'm
yeah,
hoping
that
that
was
never comes
quite
out.
a
And expected to
drastic
increase
rise.
again. Yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah.
expected to
Well,
continue.
I'm hoping that projection's wrong.
Well, that wasn't the projection. That was the count from last year.
No, he said
Oh,
to go up.
right,
Yeah.
expected to
I'm hoping
increase.
that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
All right, well, before we go, let's talk about a study that came out showing Bakersfield's population increasing.
This is wild.
So this is wild. So I don't think it's coming as a surprise to anyone, but Bakersfield is one of the fastest growing cities in California.
That is really incredible. And what really took me aback was the population. So according to new data released by the state's finance department, the city of Bakersfield population is now 419,000. That's an increase of 3,000 compared to last year.
And remember, that's just within the city limits. That doesn't
Right,
like
that's not greater
That's not greater
Bakersfield. That's
Bakersfield. Like,
just
you may-
literally city limits.
You may put Bakersfield on your address on your envelope, but you may say you live in Bakersfield, but you're not in the city limits, and
Yep.
you were
You're
not
counted
included
in this.
in this.
That's
Yeah,
pretty
So
impressive.
the next time says, "Oh, you live in the small town of Bakersfield."
Not really.
We don't live really in a small town. We have that small town heart,
Which is great. Like, I hope we never lose that as we continue to grow. That's the one thing
right?
that
We don't
scares
want to
me is
become
we don't
Los
want to
Angeles in
lose
terms of certain things.
our small town feel for
Yes.
sure. And I think that like
Small town hospitality.
yeah, and I think that the especially the Renaissance downtown really helps hold on to that because we have these historic places that are being
Buildings,
refurbished, the
yeah.
Padre and Woolworths, and I love to see that, and I love seeing new businesses coming in down here. That was not a look at one of them.
The best shots of a cart pulled over on that.
But yeah, this is just crazy. And it's so funny because my dad will be like, back in my day, all that was around here were farm fields. I was like, yeah, no, I know, Dad. And it is crazy when you think at the rate that we have grown at. Because
Well,
when I was
guys
growing
grew up
up,
here.
I grew up, the marketplace was the furthest west. And when it was brand new, it was huge news.
I was going to say, I mean, I remember when CSUB was seen as like far west Bakersfield.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And it's becoming more city center Bakersfield. You know, I mean, it's
Crazy. So much is west of that now.
Even
if you actually-
2006, when I moved here, where I live now, I remember I had to drive out there once to a friend of mine where there were just a few houses out there. I was like, this is so far. And you know how far I live from his house now? 2 minutes.
That's funny.
Yeah, I mean, I think the West Side Parkway also like really helped. You know,
Oh, that is a
but
lifesaver.
Also, let's not forget about East Side. I mean, all of the development in
yeah.
the, you know,
City of the
City of the Hills, Rio Bravo
Tuscany,
area.
all that.
Yeah, all of that. I mean, it's going up. You got to remember the city limits go just into the canyon, into the mouth of the canyon.
Oh, wow.
So
And they're building more out there.
yeah, so
On the east
it really
side.
is expanding. Well, and
Lots
I mean,
of houses going in.
Okay.
you're seeing obviously South Shafter, North Bakersfield
Yeah.
merging.
I
They're
know.
running
It's crazy.
into
They touch each other now.
They touch each other
It's
now.
really
And
wild.
then of course, South. I mean, all directions. I mean, we're just.
I mean,
we're
I remember
expanding.
when I first moved here, and I lived in East Bakersfield, and I lived right by Mason Rand. And I can remember at the house that I lived in, you could hear the race cars at
Oh
night.
my gosh,
You
really?
know, now that's a school.
Yeah, I was gonna say
A
it's not
school
that
out there and
anymore.
houses surrounding
Crazy.
That's an elementary or middle school? I don't
think it's elementary, yeah.
Elementary school. Yeah, school out there. You got Tuscany up near the canyon. I mean, just crazy the growth that we've seen.
It is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even Tehachapi's growing actually right now. I ran away.
And I'm
I
sorry.
ran away to the mountains.
And Shafter. Shafter is growing
Oh, yeah.
like crazy.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
It is mainly because of South Shafter. But even when you go into like more of like the downtown Shafter area, in that area, there's a lot of new development, up there. So when people say Shafter is growing and they're like, oh, it's because of Gossamer Grove, it's not just Gossamer Grove. You're seeing, you know, downtown Shafter and Gossamer Grove.
They're merging.
They're
almost.
merging.
It's almost like Shafter's becoming. I mean, I'm not saying this is that. Shafter's merging with Bakersfield because I drove out there.
Oh, it's going to be seamless.
And I saw
here
the
pretty
Shafter
soon.
sign one day because I don't go out there that much. I was like, Shafter? Because of the growth, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm already in Shafter.
Give it a few years.
Where's the difference here?
Give it a few years, and you're not going to be able to tell the difference.
No.
No,
it's just
yeah.
going to be. It's going to look like one large Bakersfield.
Well, it reminds me of like when I lived in Orange County when I went to college down there. Like you're seamlessly one city to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next.
And
like,
I wonder in
it's crazy.
time, I know we're running out of time, I wonder in time as these communities get closer and closer, if some of these, one day, I know this is a crazy idea, merge, like Shafter becomes like Bakersfield because they're getting so close
I mean, but
that
look
we
at-
just build a, you know what I mean? I don't know. I know that's a weird thought.
All right.
Alrighty.
We'll leave it on that note. Thanks for
I don't
joining
know.
us.
Kevin will do the research.
Yeah, we'll see you
on the
tomorrow.
logistics. Bye.